Hi guys, this is Bonnie Morris and Krystina. What we're going to be doing today is, of course, we're sitting in the middle of these baby horses, so they're being a little bit silly. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be narrating and reading the history of the Norwegian Fjord Horse today, written by Phil Prichard. And Krystina can go ahead and get started.
Thank you, Bonnie.
You're welcome.
The History of the Norwegian Fjord Horse Registry by Phil Prichard. No one can be entirely sure when the first Norwegian Fjord Horse arrived in America, but the 6-month-old horse purchased by the noted publisher J. Bertram Lippincott of Philadelphia from a drover, Henry Harbinger, in Lancaster, Pennsylvania in 1888 could well have been it. Describing the gelding he called Dandy, Lippincott may have been the first among many of us to have been struck by the character of this horse. The first documentation of the importation of fjord horses from Norway came about through the discovery of a small booklet that had remained in the Tunbridge, Vermont Public Library. The booklet had been produced by the prominent industrialist Warren Delano of Barrytown,
Excuse us.
and uncle of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Renowned as a breeder of fine horses in the Hudson Valley, Delano had discovered the horse upon his travels in Norway in 1900. With the assistance of Norwegian officials, he imported some of the finest examples of the breed to Steen Valente, a magnificent estate overlooking the Hudson. It was not until the 1950s and early 1960s that much of America's original foundation stock was imported, many bloodlines of which may be found in the pedigrees of many of our current registrations. The early pages of the history of the Norwegian Fjord Horse in America might never have been written had it not been for the efforts of one determined person, Gene Bauer. Gene's passion for the breed was apparent through his efforts to consolidate bloodlines from throughout the country. King Harold from Western Breeding, Gesterson from the East, and Hjalmar from King Harold and Benting formed the foundation of breeding his stallions to mares from throughout North America. His determination was to see the organization he founded, the Norwegian Fjord Association of North America, become instrumental to the success and preservation of the pure Norwegian Fjord Horse in America. Harold Jacobson, of Norwegian birth, purchased a number of the horses from Alex Thompson's T.O. Ranch and immediately recognized the gene pool of the American stock to be dangerously shallow. Traveling to Norway in the mid-1970s, Jacobson began selecting a number of fine mares and the stallion Dragton for improving his herd. More importantly, it was Jacobson, through his friendship with John Hegdal, foreman of the Norges Fjordhuslag, who established and cemented the relationship the Norwegian Fjord Horse Registry has to this day.
You guys are pests.
They're helping.
You're not helping us too much.
One needed to be casually acquainted with both Gene Bauer and Harold Jacobson to realize these two gentlemen, self-made, determined, and proud, would eventually necessitate the need for two separate organizations. It would take many years for the Norwegian Fjord Association of North America and the Norwegian Fjord Horse Registry to consolidate. Harold had sold a number of horses to people throughout America. Among those were Sven Huseby and Phil Prichard, who lived in Vermont, and Jacques Lesueur of Massachusetts. The three met in the fall of 1980 at Sven's home to discuss the possible formation of a new organization for the Fjord Horse, an action they felt necessary due to the fact that some of them, having purchased horses from Jacobson, had run afoul of the dispute between Jacobson and Bauer. There were several others who had purchased horses from Harold who were unable to register their horses with the NFA of NA, despite the fact that all horses sold were of imported Norwegian registered stock or American Foundation stock registered with the NFA.
Come on, you guys, you're too much. You're pestering.
Sven, Phil, and Jacques set about to form the foundation of the Norwegian Fjord Horse Registry. Sven penned the first writing of the bylaws of the NFHR, the initial requirements for registration, and the breeding rules for our proposed new organization. Unique for the breed registries at the time would be Sven's eye to the future. He recognized that crossbreeding of the Fjord Horse to other breeds could prove to be detrimental to the breed, and he wrote the rule that the NFHR does not permit crossbreeding. A substantial financial contribution by Harold Jacobson provided the necessary funds for incorporation in the state of Vermont, and the Norwegian Fjord Horse Registry, Inc. became an official breed organization, with Sven Huseby becoming its first president until 1983. Over the next few years, Sven began to learn more about the Fjord Horse world in Norway, Holland, and Denmark. He spent hours at the offices of the Norges Fjordhuslag office in As, Norway, and visited the Fjordminparten Stonebeck in Hoenderloo, Holland. He came to believe that we needed to move forward with building a registry in the U.S. that incorporated many of the best guidelines of those countries. The strong encouragement and financial support from Harold Jacobson provided Sven the incentive to set a course that would bring those of us who had an interest in the breed together. It was at a presentation in Njordfjordeid, Norway, that Phil met John Hegdal for the first time, a man whose love of his job as foreman of the Norges Fjordhuslag and the Fjord Horse was inseparable. The friendship of these two people would provide direction for the NFHR for many years. In the spring of 1988, Phil Prichard traveled to Norway, and he and a veterinarian assigned to help Phil by the Norges Fjordhuslag found and assembled 40 young horses suitable to augment the American gene pool. When the horses gathered at the Gardermoen airport near Oslo, John Hegdal declared the assembly to be the Big Lift. As the years went by, more and more American breeders began importing fjords from Norway, as well as other countries, and this has helped to build our gene pool. The first NFHR show and evaluation was held in Woodstock, Vermont in 1983. People came from all over, and between 20 and 30 horses were paraded before an international panel of judges. The comments of the judges indicated that they found the horses of American stock to be of exceptionally good quality. About the same time as the NFHR show in Woodstock, there was a gathering of fjords and owners in Hood River, Oregon. John Hegdal remarked that the horses he saw there were of such good quality that perhaps Norway should look to America should it ever need bloodlines. Over the years, fjord owners and enthusiasts began coming together for fellowship, competition, and information, and regional clubs were formed and are still active in a variety of places throughout the U.S. The first official Fjord Herald was published in 1986. It has grown to be the large, beautiful, professional magazine that NFHR members receive and enjoy quarterly. In the 1980s, the NFHR Evaluation Committee began to pen the process for evaluations of our horses through the training of qualified judges, evaluators. Those first qualified evaluators went to the Fjord Show in Norway in 1990. The first evaluation to use the new American rules was held in Libby, Montana in 1994. Another accomplishment was the work on artificial insemination and development of the NFHR rules for shipment of semen that would be emulated by many other breed organizations. Talks began between the NFHR and the NFA of NA in the 1990s, in the belief that if we could merge, the result would be a much stronger and more effective organization that would directly benefit the future and well-being of the Fjord Horse. Finally, in 2003, the merger papers were officially signed, the two groups bringing the best ideas of each together, resulting in the growing, vibrant organization we have today. This organization's main focus continues to be the preservation of purity of our awesome breed. Now retired, Executive Director and Registrar Mike Hay handled the reins of the NFHR from 1991 through 2010. The first 5 or 6 years of those on a completely volunteer basis. Mike handled many of the details of the merger and worked hard keeping up with the constant growth of the NFHR. The future looks bright for this organization that started humbly with just a small group of people who recognized that they had a responsibility to preserve and protect this beautiful horse that was so unique, pure, and gentle. They did a good job getting it all started. Now it is up to us to preserve it and grow it, always with the first priority being those wonderful fjords we love and enjoy so much. The NFHR thanks Phil Prichard for his excellent article, which is of great historical value.